Today we are going to discuss what many people call opportunity of this decade. We're going to talk about something called social commerce. I want you to listen till the end because I'm going to deconstruct this entire model for you. Why? Because over the next 10 years, you will probably work in this sector. This is one of the most lucrative sectors over the next few years. What will we cover in this video? Number one, I will explain to you what is social commerce. What does this term actually mean? Number two, I will tell you how is this model working globally, and China is the big market. Why is it working in China? Number three, I will tell you what is happening in India, and it's not going too well in India. Number four, I will tell you why it is not going too well in India, and if you want to make a career in this sector, what should you look at? And number five, I will tell you over the next 10 years, where is this model headed in India? So if you want to make a career in marketing, e-commerce, product management, sales, technology, you will deal with social commerce. So let's start with what is social commerce. Now, as the name says, it means commerce, which means you're buying something through social media. Now, if you look at the definition of social commerce, essentially there are three models of social commerce. Number one is called live streaming. What is live streaming? There is an influencer who's actually broadcasting a video live to his or her followers, and the followers and the viewers are interacting with this influencer live or buying products. That is what is called live streaming. Now, in China, live streaming is extremely big. So according to The Economist, 500 million people, over 500 million people are glued to live streaming. That is the first model of social commerce. The second model of social commerce is what we traditionally know, which is selling through influencers. So you will have influencers. You may have seen influencers on Instagram. You may have seen influencers on YouTube who are actually showing their products and services and they're selling it. That is what is called a social media influencer based selling. They sell through platforms like Instagram, they sell through platforms like YouTube, and outside India, they sell through platforms like TikTok, etc. The third model is very interesting, which is called group buying. What is group buying? In simple English, this is what it means, that if you go and buy, say, a bag of rice, I will give it to you at 90 rupees. But if you get four other friends to buy the same bag of rice, to each of you, I will give it to you at, say, 85 rupees. So I'm giving you a discount because you as a group are buying together. One of the biggest companies in the world, again from China, is in this sector. It's called Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo pioneered this model in China and has a market capitalization over $175 billion. It's a ridiculously successful company, something we will later analyze in this video. The next question we are going to look at is how big is social commerce and how big is it likely to be? Now, if you look at research reports, there are many reports in this space. So Grandview Research, one of the agencies that has done, has said social commerce is worth $1.6 trillion, $1.6 trillion globally. But the more important number is it is growing at over 30% every year. So the next question is, why is China so big when it comes to social commerce? And the reasons are fairly simple. Now, you'll notice the word, there is something called social. Because the word social is there, any society which is more socially inclusive, people value family, friends, relationships, will do well. Number two is in terms of internet penetration. So in China, you have excellent smartphone penetration, excellent in internet penetration. Close to 90% of the Chinese have high-speed internet. So automatically they are spending 4 or 5 hours every day on social media platforms like Alibaba. So it's a big enabler in terms of that. Number three is a very important point from a supply chain perspective, which is called density. The population density in China is very high. So for an e-com player to service these orders becomes very viable because all the people are probably living around the same region. So it's very, very easy for them to service these orders. Number four, the most important point, which probably most people do not speak about, is if you're looking at any commerce app, the way these apps were designed in China is you had the social element, you had the commerce element all ingrained together, there is something called a super app, which is WeChat, and all of everything is frictionless in WeChat. So you can watch social media, you can speak to people, you can pay on the app. All of it is without friction. One of the biggest drivers has been the incredible rise of WeChat. How big is WeChat? China's population is about 1.4 to 1.5 billion. WeChat has monthly active users of over 1.3 billion. Nearly everybody uses WeChat. Let's try and understand with some numbers. So Retsia has done a bit of research which says what is the social commerce revenue to total e-commerce revenue. Now in India, social commerce revenue is about 1 to 2% of total e-commerce revenue. If you look at a market like China, social commerce revenue in China is 30 to 40% of total e-commerce revenue. Now you may say China is very advanced. What about looking at similar countries? Even if you take a market like Indonesia, in Indonesia, social commerce revenue is about 20% of total e-commerce revenue. India, the number is 1 to 2%. So there's huge headroom to grow in terms of opportunity. If you look at absolute numbers, Reds here also says that social commerce in India does a business of $1 billion in FY25. Remember, globally, the industry is worth $1.6 trillion. So even at an absolute level and a percentage of the total e-commerce, social commerce is nowhere in terms of where it should be in India. But that is not to say that India has not shown potential. There have been certain examples which have done well. You may have heard about Myntra, that Myntra has said it gets 10% of its total business every year by collaborating with 3.5 million influencers. If you look at Unilever, Hindustan Unilever, they are now partnering with 12,000 influencers, up from 700 last year. So some of the companies have started partnering with influencers, but the base is very, very small. You may have heard about SimSim, Glow Road, Bulbul. They came for some time, but honestly did not deliver. When we talk about social commerce in India, Meesho is often given as the example. So what is Meesho? Meesho essentially is an app where what you can do is, if you are a lady, primarily a woman, you can become a reseller, which means you can go to your friends and say, here are these items on Meesho. Why don't you buy it from Meesho to your friends? So your friends are trusting you. So you can go and sell those items to Meesho and you can get a commission on that. Meesho takes care of the entire backend and the inventory and the delivery. So Meesho is one of India's biggest social commerce stories. Now, what we're going to compare is Meesho versus Pinduoduo in terms of China. It's a very, very interesting comparison. Both of them started in the year 2015. They started in 2015 and they have over 50 to 100 million active users, whether you look at a monthly basis or a yearly basis. A lot of them become resellers, which means a lady will go to her friend and say, buy this item from Meesho. She will add her commission and sell it. There are millions of resellers. Many people believe it's 10 million resellers, 15 billion resellers. How is the company doing in terms of profit? So revenue wise, the GMV is about $6 billion. If you look at FY25, it made a loss of nearly 4,000 crores in FY25. You may recall it's got listed recently. So after 10 years, it's made a loss of 4,000 crores, one of India's biggest success stories. Let's look at Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo currently has a market valuation of $175 billion. Started in the same year as Meesho, 2015. By 2022, it was making blockbuster profits. So Meesho has taken 10 years. Pinduoduo in 7 years was making blockbuster profits, now is going global. Now the question you will ask is, why is it so difficult to build a profitable social commerce model in India? The number one issue is India is a low trust society. China is a high trust society. If you look at a survey that was done by the World Value Survey, what they did is went and they asked common people, do you trust other Indians and do you trust other Chinese? Now, nearly 60 to 65% of Chinese, regular Chinese people said, yes, we trust other Chinese. In India, only 17 to 20% of people said, we trust other Indians. So India is a low trust society. China is a high trust society. What does it mean for business? And this is a huge insight if you want to set up a business, because which means whenever you launch a new technology or a new business model in India, we will be like, no, no, we don't trust it. Let someone else do it. In China, that's why China is so ahead in this AI game. Any new technology, any new app, they fundamentally tend to trust, and they hence try a new technology a lot more. Number two, very interesting, is because of this, Indians tend to pay at the end. They will say, let us experiment with the product, let's touch the product, feel the product, we'll pay at the end. In China, they will say, I fundamentally trust the vendor. I know there is a return policy. I will pay using my wallets and credit cards. What does this mean for the person who's supplying those clothes or supplying those items? That whole working capital is coming into the picture. In China, they're getting an advance. In India, they're getting cash at the end. So this is the number one reason why the India model is not working. Now, if you look at the Indian consumer versus the Chinese consumer, the amount of customization you need to do is immense. Look at the number of states we have, the number of languages we speak, the number of customizations required, the regional nuances at play. The amount of customization you have to do, the amount of SKUs or stock you have to hold is much, much higher compared to China. Also, the degree of unorganized sellers. So if you look at Redseer, they also made a research that over the next 5 years, 70% of business will come through unorganized and regional players. So you cannot get the benefit of scale. In China, a few big players can supply this. The third big difference is Indian consumers are super price sensitive. They do not like to pay for any items. They don't like to pay a lot for any items. So if you look at average order value between India and China, it is between a factor of 3 times. In China, you get 3 times more than what you typically get in India, which means what? In China, you can give discounts of 15 to 20%. Even if you have return, you can still make money, even if you give that influencer some commission. But in India, the average order value is only 200 rupee, 300 rupee. Factor in return, factor in discount, you have no commission left to give that social media influencer. So that is why you can never make money in India. Number three is logistics and population density. There's a term called parcel density, which means how easy it is for you as a delivery network to supply the number of parcels in one day. If you look at China, parcel density is 8 times more in India. So people are concentrated better, the roads are better organized, the addresses are better given, the pin codes are better. So technically, in a way, a person can do 6 to 8 times more deliveries than what they can do in India, immediately driving up the economics of this. And it's a very, very important point in terms of why it is so difficult to be profitable in India. The fourth point is we love to deal in cash. So if you look at a research by IIM Ahmedabad, it said that, and they quoted this in Forbes, that 65% of consumers in tier 2, tier 3 cities especially still want to deal in cash. Not because they don't have access to UPI, but because we are a low trust society, we don't trust the vendors and the clothes enough. We want to see the cloth, we want to have touch and feel, and only then we will go and buy something. So 65% people deal in cash in India, whereas in China, remember 1.3 billion people are on WeChat, and the wallets and the cards are fully automated. And that is why the experience is frictionless, and that's why people stick onto the platform. Also for the seller, the money is coming in advance. Money is not coming at the end, and makes a huge difference to the overall viability of the model. The fifth point, and the most important one, again coming from trust, is look at the role of influencers. In general, if you see, the influencers in India are not as good compared to the influencers in China. What do I mean by this? So for example, in China, there is a strong legislation which says you cannot give out financial advice, health advice, unless you have either a degree or you have a certification in that space. So unless you're qualified to talk on something, you cannot talk on something. And it is, they make the onus on the social media platform like Douyin, which is TikTok, or on other social media platforms. They have to verify the certificates, the degrees, so that the influencer is held responsible. And that's why misinformation can be a little less. In India, if you look at, there are no such guidelines. Even the Advertising Council of India says that if you are doing general awareness, you don't need any degrees. But if you're making specific claims, you only need to make a disclosure. You technically don't even need to have a degree. What this means is there's so much misinformation that is going around this space. Anybody can claim to be a health and wellness expert. Anybody can claim to be a mental health expert. Anybody can become a financial health expert. So no one needs to show a certain degree of capability or formal education in this space. And that is why so much misinformation goes around. And as a result, we don't trust these new age systems. And as a result, some of these social commerce models are actually not working. So, what are the 5 reasons why social commerce models are not working? Number one is we are fundamentally a low trust society. Number two is the business model and economics. Indian consumer is very complex. Number three is infrastructure is very, very poor. Number four is in terms of preference for cash payments. And number five is just lower legislation requirement in terms of that. And that is why it is not working in terms of that. What is the conclusion in this space? Will social commerce grow in India? Remember, it's a very small base. $1 billion in India, $900 billion in China. So, will it grow faster than e commerce? The answer is yes. Will it ever become as big as China, which is today? China today is about $900 billion. Will it ever become as big as that? The answer you'll have to probably say is no. For the 5 reasons that I said, India will never meet up to China when it comes to social commerce. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I want you to recall 3 key learnings from this video that you had. Please drop them in the comment section. Forward this video with a friend of yours who needs to hear this and can learn from this. Till next time, take care. Thank you so much.